Hello everyone, back again with movie and tune recap. Today, I'm going to explain a Finnish horror mystery film from 2026, titled Nightborn. Spoilers ahead, so watch out and take care. The movie begins with a happy couple, Saga and John, visiting a derelict house in the Finnish forest that once belonged to Saga's late grandmother. The house is old and has been abandoned for years, with even the floorboards becoming dangerously weak. They make their way upstairs, where they discover a tree growing through the floorboards of the bedroom Saga once shared with her sister, Taru. John suggests renovating the house into a family home where they can raise children together, and afterwards, the happy couple begins dancing before heading into the surrounding forest. John notices how strange the tree trunks are, while Saga embraces a tree whose trunk resembles a pregnant belly. Saga tells John that when she was little, her grandmother prevented her from coming into this forest. She also explains that the forest takes its own. Soon, the couple gives in to their desires and ends up having sex in the forest. Later, Saga experiences a difficult childbirth and suffers a severe tear to her birth canal. After the delivery, the baby boy remains unsettlingly silent, and on the maternity ward, the infant only cries when the curtains are opened. When Saga gets to hold her baby, her expression changes when she notices that he is covered in thick black hair. However, the doctor assures her that the baby is healthy, and John then decides to take a family picture before they head home. As a result of the difficult delivery, which has weakened her body, Saga uses crutches to support herself while walking. At the now renovated house, the baby begins to cry, so Saga decides to breastfeed him. However, the baby starts biting her breast, causing her severe pain, which she tries to endure. Later, while cleaning the baby, the parents notice a tiny tail sprouting from his back, leaving Saga disturbed. As a result of the difficult delivery and breastfeeding, Saga develops sores on her breasts and begins experiencing other health challenges, including abnormal weight gain. That night, when the baby refuses to sleep in his crib, the parents bring him into their bed. Later that night, Saga wakes up to find the baby clinging to her. She tries to push him away, but the baby continues clinging to her, moving even closer. The next morning, Saga's mother, a professor, and her sister, Taru, visit for the baby's naming ceremony, and it is revealed that Saga's childhood bedroom has been transformed into a nursery. During a conversation with her mother, we learn that Saga was someone who preferred trees to people when she was little. When the baby begins to cry, Saga's mother tries to calm him down, but the infant suddenly tears an earring from her earlobe. While treating her injured ear, Saga expresses concern that something is wrong with the baby, referring to him only as it. However, her mother dismisses her fears. Her mother insists that even she was troublesome as a kid and did give her a lot of hell. At the naming ceremony in the garden, guests arrive to see the baby, and among them is a little girl who becomes unsettled by the baby's appearance and visceral crying. Saga grows embarrassed when her kid just wouldn't stop crying at the naming ceremony. She has guilt that she's not a good mother. As Saga tries to calm him down, a gust of wind from the forest blows a cover over his stroller, shielding him from the sunlight, and the baby immediately stops crying. During the ceremony, John is about to announce the baby's name when Saga interrupts him, declaring that the baby will be named Kura. When Saga notices that the sunlight has left deep burns on Kura's skin, she quickly takes him inside. After the ceremony, John angrily confronts Saga for naming their baby, as he had expected to name him Christian after his father. This leads to a brief argument, but the couple eventually calms down. Saga tells John that something is wrong with the baby, but John insists that there is nothing wrong. When the baby refuses to stop crying, Saga roughly rattles him in an attempt to make him stop, while Taru insists that she should not do that. We then see that Saga has fully recovered from the difficult delivery, although she is unhappy with her appearance, but her niece, Anna, tries to cheer her up. When the baby begins crying again, the sisters suddenly hear a loud rumbling sound coming from the forest. Later, while helping John dismantle rusted cars in the garden, Taru recounts their grandmother's warning that the surrounding forest is dangerous. She explains that their grandmother kept scrap metal around the property because cold iron could keep the creatures away. That night, John cheers Saga up about her appearance, and the two become intimate. During the moment, Saga notices Kura watching them, but John does not see anything, and their intimate moment is interrupted when Kura begins crying, so Saga goes to put him to sleep. While watching over him, Saga eventually falls asleep, and when she wakes up, she discovers that Kura has escaped from his cot and is transfixed by the tree that has begun growing through the nursery floorboards again. Saga tears up the floorboards, and as she stares at the tree, something happens. The following morning, John finds Saga beside the torn-up floorboards, while Kura has returned to his crib. Saga tells him about what happened during the night and points out that Kura has been behaving very unusually, so John suggests that they take the baby to a child clinic. Because of the severe injury she has developed from breastfeeding, Saga stops breastfeeding Kura and tries to give him food and milk instead. However, he refuses to eat or drink them, and when Saga accidentally cuts herself on a piece of broken glass, she is horrified to discover Kura sucking her blood. At a baby clinic, the clinician runs some tests but dismisses Saga's concerns, explaining that Kura is simply advanced for his age. The clinician then refers Saga for counseling to help her bond with him. Back at home, Saga tells John that she will no longer breastfeed Kura. This leads to an argument between the couple, but their disagreement comes to an end when John's parents arrive for a visit. Inside the house, it is a little dark, as John explains to his parents that Kura is sensitive to light, so they have covered all the windows. After offering their gifts, John's father, a vicar, blesses Kura with holy water, but it has no physical effect on him. Later, while in the garden with his mother, John notices that a root has grown in the garden, even though it wasn't there before. When Kura is with the vicar, the infant suddenly cries out loudly, and they discover that his hand is badly burned after he grasps an unused cold fire iron. Hearing this, Saga begins to laugh, as she has finally understood what Kura is. He isn't a baby. After visiting the grocery store, Saga buys blood meal for Kura and gives it to him, and surprisingly, he drinks it and even falls asleep afterward. When John returns home from work, Saga quickly hides the blood meal beneath the floorboards. That night, the couple has dinner together for the first time since Kura's arrival, giving them a chance to catch up. When John mentions that they should have another baby, Saga's face turns sour, but John insists that he was only joking. While preparing for bed, the couple argue again. Saga is upset that John always sees her as the problem and insists that she needs some space. This annoys John, so he decides to leave the house. When Kura begins to cry, Saga becomes angry and screams at the baby, causing him to stop crying. She then sees something disturbing, only to realize that it was a nightmare. However, she notices that Kura has bitten her hand. As the baby begins walking toward her, Saga grabs a piece of cold iron to keep him at bay. Just then, her phone starts ringing. She answers the call and locks herself in the bathroom while Kura tries to get inside. Saga tells her mother that she feels she needs to kill Kura before he kills her, but her mother assures her that there is nothing out of the ordinary. Next, Saga wakes up in a forest covered in snow. She soon begins hearing Kura wailing, and while searching for him, she is shocked to find the baby feasting on a dead animal. John returns home after being away for days and notices that the root in the garden has grown much bigger. Saga also refuses to dress Kura in his clothes, claiming that they harm him, which leaves John confused. John eventually discovers the blood meal Saga has been giving Kura and becomes angry that she did not follow the clinician's referral. Saga insists that Kura will not take anything else, and as they struggle over the blood meal, it bursts, splashing blood all over their bodies. John and Saga's relationship becomes increasingly strained when he expresses concern that Saga is failing to socialize Kura properly. He suggests that Saga is exhausted and needs some time to herself. Saga agrees, and makes an overnight trip to the city to visit her friends, leaving John to care for Kura. That night, Saga meets her work colleagues at a restaurant, where they ask to see photos of Kura, but Saga tells them she doesn't have any. As they catch up on old times, a baby begins crying in the restaurant, leaving Saga visibly disturbed. Later, while they are eating, Saga develops a rash on her chest and immediately leaves the restaurant, but not before grabbing some raw meat. She leaves the city and makes her way back home, where it becomes clear that her behavior is also changing. While with Kura, Saga notices that the rash on her chest has now disappeared, and when the baby begins crying, she feeds him the raw meat. The next day, Teru and her daughter, Anna, visit the family, and during a meal, Saga displays her strange behavior toward Kura, which makes John angry, and he walks away. During their conversation, Saga tells Teru that she wanted a child just like Anna but ended up having someone like Kura. However, Teru tells Saga that Kura isn't the problem, but she is. She says Saga isn't giving him the proper care he needs and tells her to stop smothering him. Just then, their conversation is interrupted by Anna's loud scream. Kura, who has become increasingly violent, bites off Anna's finger, and Saga is blamed for it. This leaves Saga devastated, but since nobody is willing to believe her, she wipes away her tears and feeds Kura raw meat, and surprisingly, she also begins chewing the meat herself. That night, we see Saga playing and bonding with Kura in the nursery, while the tree beneath the floorboards has now grown much larger. The following morning, John goes to the nursery and discovers that the floorboards have been torn up. He finds Saga asleep among the tree's roots, cradling Kura. Later, during a family meal, John tries to feed Kura baby food, but Kura shoves the metal spoon away and throws the jar at John. When John keeps trying, Saga screams at him to stop and gives Kura raw meat instead, which he eats, leaving John surprised. That night, Saga tries to apologize to John for her earlier behavior, but John accuses her of turning Kura into a monster. He says all he ever wanted was a big family, which he thought he would have with Saga from the first day he met her. However, John says Saga has ruined everything. He claims that Saga never loved Kura and should never have been a mother. Their argument escalates further, and when John attempts to leave the house with Kura, it leads to a violent struggle between him and Saga. During the confrontation, both parents struggle to get hold of Kura, and the baby's continuous crying causes tree branches to erupt through the nursery floor and windows. In the aftermath, one of the branches fatally impales John through the chest, killing him. Before Saga can grieve, she is shocked to see Kura begin feasting on John's corpse. Saga then removes John's heart, and together with Kura, they feed on John's blood and heart. After the ordeal, Kura runs into the garden, where a humanoid figure separates itself from one of the trees and approaches him with outstretched arms as Saga watches from the porch. For the first time, we see Kura's face. He giggles, then turns back towards Saga with a smile, and Saga smiles back as the movie comes to an end. Okay guys, that's all the recap about Nightborn from 2026. Thanks for watching, see you again in the next video.